My name is Abdullah Al-Arian. I'm an associate professor of history at Georgetown University in Qatar. And on behalf of my faculty colleagues, Firat Uruch and Karine Walther, I'd like to welcome you all to this conference on the global histories and practices of Islamophobia. This conference is the product of a research project organized by the Center for International and Regional Studies here at Georgetown during the course of the last 2 years. The workshop has held a series of fruitful meetings in that time and will be producing an edited book hopefully sometime next year. But in the course of our subsequent discussions, and particularly as the question of Islamophobia only continues to be more urgent in so many parts of the world, we decided that it was critical that we take the conversations that we've been having in these meetings and share them with a wider audience. And based on the massive response we've received to this conference, it seems that we were right. And believe me, this turnout has surprised all of the conference organizers, but I think your presence here today is a testament to the ways in which the question of Islamophobia has become so pervasive, whether in the realm of politics and public policy, economic development and social welfare, or mass media and popular culture. Islamophobia continues to exhibit disturbing and destructive features that are both globalized in the sense that they are becoming increasingly universalized, and at the same time, deeply rooted in local beliefs and practices emerging out of particular historical and lived experiences. Among other things, this conference aims to disentangle these seemingly contradictory features of the Islamophobia phenomenon, examine the impact these practices have had on populations around the globe, and consider what remedies could be devised to tackle the challenge across multiple spheres. So during the course of the next 2 days, you'll have the opportunity to hear from many of the participants in the original CRS research project, in addition to a number of esteemed scholars, policymakers, journalists, artists, and activists who have been kind enough to join us for this conference. They'll address the question of Islamophobia from a number of perspectives, beginning with tracing its intellectual roots, identifying its connections to practices of empire, and the domestic securitization and racialization of entire communities, to highlighting the role that mass media has played in disseminating expressions of Islamophobia and its role undergirding the global war on terror over the past 2 decades. And along with the many international guests who've joined us from around the world, I'm also pleased that this conference has provided an opportunity for collaboration within our intellectual community here in Doha. This conference features participants from a number of our neighbor institutions, including Northwestern University in Qatar, the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies, Qatar University, the Al Jazeera Media Network, and the Qatar Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We're grateful for their presence here and hope that this continues to generate opportunities for collaboration around critical topics with far-reaching impact beyond our community. And with that, now I'd like to introduce Associate Professor of History and Chair of the Georgetown University in Qatar faculty, Edward Kolla, who will offer some welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, conference participants, to all those who have traveled to join us today, and to our friends from Qatar, and to our many colleagues from Georgetown University, other Education City institutions, and the many other educational institutions around Doha, thank you for joining us today. My name is Eddie Kolla, and I have the distinction of serving currently as the faculty chairperson at Georgetown in Qatar. And on behalf of our university, I want to welcome you to this conference on the global histories and practices of Islamophobia. I'm a history professor, so it gives me double pleasure to help open this event. As you just heard from my colleague, Professor Al-Arian, the genesis of this conference was a study that he and another colleague, another historian, Professor Karine Walther, had initiated in our Center for International and Regional Studies. Joined by Professor Firat Uruch, who is there, they took this academic event and expanded it into Georgetown's second Hiwaraat event. This is precisely the purpose of the Hiwaraat conference series, to expand beyond scholarly discourse and engage a wider community in dialogue over important issues, both historical and contemporary, that are of great importance for Georgetown, for Qatar, and for the world. True to Georgetown's Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service and our interdisciplinary approach to thinking about the world around us, these events aim to engage people in a rounded and multifaceted conversation. I'm sure some of you were here several weekends ago for the first Hiwaraat conference on reflections 20 years after the American-led invasion of Iraq. And our next event is an Afghanistan Regional Symposium. We will host future events later this semester on the future of water security in the Gulf and global cultures of energy. I do hope you will join us for all of these important dialogues. In addition to the many important points on today's agenda that Abdullah already mentioned, I would like to give a special plug to the student event at 3:30 on the second floor. It's concurrent with the third panel, and it's on activist and creative responses to Islamophobia. Again, on behalf of Georgetown, I'd like to thank you all today for being here, all the speakers and audience members. I'd especially like to thank the conference organizers, Karine, Abdullah, and Hiwaraat, as well as everyone in the administration at Georgetown who helped make today's event happen. It's my pleasure now to invite Karine Walther, Associate Professor of History, to introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.